My name's Rohan Sekar, and I'm a junior at Brookline High. Out of school, I would say my main activity is debate during the season in preparation for tournaments. Sometimes it's like 2 hours a night, compiling different cases on different topics. In school activities, I played on the squash team this year. We went to the national tournament in Philadelphia at the end of the year. That was super fun. We were in, I guess, like one of the lower divisions. Our team's not, we don't have like our own facilities, but we got 5th in our division, which is pretty exciting. For debate, I recently won the state tournament, which was pretty exciting, and our team in general did super well there. We just debated for maybe like 10 hours straight. What I like about debate is it's very, there's a lot of aspects to it that play into things that I like to do. So if you know me outside of school, I do like to argue my perspective, and especially trying to like persuade people is very interesting to me, and different methods of doing that. And then also the public speaking aspect. When I initially joined, I was pretty shy, I'd say. Debate's a good practice for sort of getting more comfortable around other people and saying what you actually believe in your ideas. Outside of school, my friends and I, we run this basketball camp. We've been doing it since freshman year summer when COVID hit initially, and a lot of our friends and family friends didn't really have any outdoor camps to go to because they were all canceled. So me and my 2 other friends, that we started to start running some clinics. At its peak during the summer, we amassed a camp of like maybe 12 to 15 kids 3 times a week. And now we've resumed doing it this year during the spring. So every Friday from 3 to 5 we play. I think that our camp has made a lot of kids who maybe weren't the best socially or didn't have the most sports experience. We've made them open up a lot more. And if you saw like a video of them from the first day to where they are now, they definitely feel a lot more comfortable in our environment. it makes me feel worse inside when I see someone being like excluded from a group, and I've definitely been excluded on occasion. So when I see someone who's sort of off from a group, I tend to try and include them, and I sort of just from the perspective of knowing how that feels.
My name is Sasha Calvert, and I'm a senior at Brookline High School. I really am a people person, and so I enjoy spending time with friends, family, just my community overall. Last year, I joined Sharp, and I primarily worked on Day of Change. Day of Change was a school-wide event that was talking about toxic masculinity, it was talking about rape culture, patriarchy, how that really harms everybody, not just women. What I'm working on right now is something called the Supportive Measures Bill. The premise of it is to ensure that any student who reports being involved in a matter of sexual misconduct will be entitled to a whole list of rights to protect their emotional well being, their safety. I'm currently in the process of creating something called the Sharp Council, which essentially is the intermediate step between students and mandated reporters. It's a space to say, here's the situation I'm in, but for example, I can't have my parents know this happened. So how can I get support without having my parents be notified? And so we kind of make sure we know all of the legal procedures and study up on all of that. We also are working on a Title IX informal resolution process that's about transformative justice for survivors of sexual violence specifically. I would want them to know that Sharp is a place where they can come to feel supported and also to gain a little bit of control back and to feel re-empowered to know that there's something that can be done. In terms of my future, I plan to major in some sort of public health, community health, global health, one of those, and with a concentration in women's and gender and sexuality studies. I hope to be able to work in the public health sector, doing community engagement work in our public schools, especially, but in all schools. There's a fear of really being explicit about sex. And I don't mean explicit as in graphic, I mean explicit as in naming issues and dynamics that are occurring among teenagers today. And so the biggest obstacles I face with Sharp work is trying to convince people and trying to, move people away from the fear and move them towards the action of there's more to fear if we don't talk about this than if we stay quiet.
My name is Alice McGarvey Thompson, and I'm a junior at Brookline High School. I got involved with climate action in freshman year. As I put more and more time into it and really got involved with more and more organizations and understood more and more movements, it really occurred to me that you can't do climate action work unless it is intersectional with racial justice work. And if you're going to talk about anything to do with climate, you have to talk about all the ways where there's a reason I don't have asthma, and there's a reason why other people do. And it's been very interesting to me to see how I can do other work while making it also climate work. And I think that that's been very, very interesting to me. Over the summer, I've read a bunch of different books about they were about the prison system. So I started doing research about Boston area organizations that were doing stuff around this. And I found one, and I just sent out a bunch of emails. And one of them responded being we're just a team of a few people and some lawyers, but we're trying to get freedom for this man, William Allen. And we're trying to get clemency because he's been in jail for 27 years. And in January, the governor of Massachusetts commuted both the sentences of William Allen and Thomas Kuntz, so two men who had been originally sentenced to life without parole. That's really changed the way I think about so many things. There's a reason why I'm doing this work, and there's a reason why this matters to all of us, because you can say, oh, well, it's so little, this is just you've put all this work into this one person, and it's now he has the rest of his life free. I think something that I've really come to understand from doing stuff, locally on a state level, just in my community and in communities, is that everything that's worthwhile gets done with other people. You have to really be talking to people talking to like everyone, you know, and building real alliances and building like real like solidarity. I feel like that's been one of the biggest lessons for me throughout the past, like, you know, I don't know, 4 years of doing this. Yeah.
My name is Brian Lee, and I am a 12th grade student at Brookline High School. One of the things I'm most involved in is the Environmental Action Club. We do like everything from education, legislative actions. We work on school sustainability. We did a lot of sort of reaching out and talking to representatives in whether Brookline government or representatives in the state house. We talk about different climate bills and climate justice bills. This year, I've been working with my club to sort of improve how we can better treat our waste and food waste at school. We're working on a campaign to sort of re-educate students and staff, and we're working with food service staff and volunteers who are helping to sort waste. I'm also involved with Mutual Aid Brookline. They're a group that helps people with grocery deliveries, financial aid, and I'm involved with language, and I connect translators to people who need more help in getting and understanding in English. There's like such a huge disparity of access to resources, even within communities as wealthy as Brookline. I'm going to college in Connecticut, and I'm majoring in environmental studies. I want to really explore sort of the intersection between science and social studies, and the ways we can work around policies and work with people to solve this existential problem that we have right now. I'm an immigrant from Vietnam. I just came to US like 4 years ago. We had a lot of help from friends and like my friends at school. So I feel like allocating those help to other people is really something important.
My name is George Flint. I'm a senior at Brookline High School. Living here has given me the opportunity to find a lot of things that make me happy. The attitude that I get from my mom, which is a very like, you know, full sail, no bullshit, like attack everything from every angle and think up the creative different way to do XYZ and make it fun in doing so, and to make the world around you what you want it to have been ideally, even if, oh, like XYZ, it would have been so much better if that didn't happen to me. It's thinking about that. Obviously, my mom inspires me a lot. And as stupid as it sounds, I think I get a lot of inspiration from strangers. You know, seeing how they change the things around them, seeing how they affect the things around them. Insights into how to help people, insights into how to help someone have a bit of a better day. Taking those and trying to incorporate them into everything that I do. If I can like make someone around me feel a little bit more powerful, feel a little more capable, feel a little more confident, feel a little more like they're not at the mercy of chance, that they have a lot of capability and power in them. I try to do whatever I can to facilitate that. Running and being able to recognize so many parts of Brookline and Boston that I love so much, and being able to find such a passion in, you know, just going straight and channeling some of the things I've had trouble with and some of the ways I can find to process those and overcome those and find ways to turn them into good things, ways to turn regrets into things I'm thankful for. I'm going to school next year. I think I want to study cognitive science, going into school. I just want to kind of take as much time as I can now to not think about what I want to do and just get really deep into whatever's in front of me.
My name is Jacob Gurdon, and I'm a junior at Brookline High School. The varsity hockey team at Brookline High School is probably the best team I've ever been on. Most of my closest friends are on the team, and the last 3 seasons have definitely been the best 3 hockey seasons of my life. And I'm looking forward to one more senior year. In school, I'm part of a club, the City Kids Club, which helps inner city students and kids get different things they need for school or out of school activities, like Chromebooks this year, especially with online school. So I found out about the Travis Ray Foundation when I was a young hockey player. I actually met Travis at an event, and the first time I met him, he really inspired me. So 4 years ago, for my bar mitzvah project, I decided to start a charity hockey tournament to benefit his foundation, the Travis Ray Foundation. Travis Roy was paralyzed in his first 11 seconds as a hockey player at BU. And he started his foundation after his accident to help people who have suffered spinal cord injuries get adaptive equipment and research to hopefully find a cure. I was very nervous going into the first time meeting him, but he always had a smile on his face, and he welcomed me with open arms, and we actually became very close family friends. The tournament's a youth hockey tournament, and we're hoping next year, without COVID, to expand it to create a high school tournament. The first year we had only 4 teams, and then each year we kind of expanded from there. And the second year we had my siblings' teams, we each played a game. The next year we had 8 to 10 teams or 8 to 12 teams. And then the last year, my sophomore year, we did a high school game and a youth tournament. We've raised over $100,000, I think. So when Travis died, it was definitely a surprise and very difficult, but I want to do everything I can to keep his legacy alive. And so we're going to be planning a golf tournament in June to support the Travis Roy Foundation and AJ Quetta, who suffered a spinal cord injury this past winter. He's a high school hockey player in Massachusetts. And then we plan the Travis Roy Foundation wiffle ball tournament every summer. Next year, I definitely want to keep the tournament going and keep helping the Travis Roy Foundation. And then after high school, definitely want to go to college and think I want to go to business school. My grandmother, who passed away last month, she did a lot for other people. She was a social worker during the AIDS crisis. So her whole life was helping other people. So that's definitely someone who I looked up to and who I want to keep her legacy alive by helping other people. Thank you to Harvey and the committee for the great honor for the second year in a row. So this past year, last summer, we played in the last Travis Roy Foundation wiffle ball tournament up in Vermont. And then this winter, in January, we hosted our first high school hockey junior beanpot tournament to benefit the Travis Roy Foundation. This was a great event. We had 4 high school hockey teams in Foxborough, my high school team, Brookline, Bishop Feehan, Newton North, and Lexington. And it was a 2-day event, silent auction, raffle. Travis's parents were there. We had the Boston Bruins national anthem singer, Todd Angeli. And it really was like probably one of my favorite events we've done. And we had AJ Quetta, who suffered a spinal cord injury last year or 2 winters ago now, who was also a high school hockey player for Bishop Feehan. He was there, so I got to meet him, which was nice. And then we raised between $15,000 and $20,000, which was also a big part of it. And it was great to honor Travis, who's obviously not with us anymore, for everything he did and to remember him. And then in the future, my brother's a sophomore at Brookline High School, and he's hopefully going to take over and lead the event next year and for future years to keep it going. And it won't be for the Travis Roy Foundation anymore, but it'll be to some sort of establishment to help spinal cord injury survivors and continue Travis's mission. Next year, I'm looking forward to attending the Ohio State University.
Hi, everybody, at the Youth Awards 2022. I am here with members of the Brookline Literacy Partnership. My name is Ben Hoff. I am a former member and president of the Brookline Literacy Partnership from 2009 through 2013. And I am so honored and excited to be talking with the current leaders of this program. Can each of you go around and introduce yourself and your role?
Hi, I'm Dhruva. I'm a senior, and this is my 4th year with the BLP, and I'm one of their co-presidents.
Hi, I'm Eleanor. I'm a junior. I'm the other co-president of the BLP, and this is my 3rd year as a member of the club.
Hi, my name is Misha. I'm the tutor leader for BLP, and this is my 2nd year in the club.
Hi, and I'm Bridget Knightley. I'm a librarian at the high school, and I've been an advisor for the Brookline Literacy Club for about the last 10 years.
Fantastic. So Dhruva, educate the group here tonight. What is the Brookline Literacy Partnership and what is the mission?
The Brookline Literacy Partnership is a club and organization at Brookline High School to promote literacy in the Boston area. And we usually do that through mainly 2 ways. One is tutoring programs. So you have tutoring programs at Mather School in Boston, as well as we used to have some at a low-income housing site in High Street. But those were impacted by Corona, but we're hoping to get those up and running next year. And then we also have tutoring programs at 2 of the Brookline schools, Lincoln and Pierce. And the other way that we try to promote literacy is through fundraisers and book drives and efforts like that. So recently we did a fundraiser to help get new books for students in Steps to Success for summer reading. It's one thing to do a book drive, but it's another thing to get new books for kids who might not otherwise be able to have access to them. And we also do some community events to raise money for fundraisers, which is a great way both to promote literacy while bringing the BHS community together, which is always really fun.
That's amazing. Per usual, the Brookline Literacy Partnership is doing a lot of different things. One thing that you said that really kind of struck me was the impact of the pandemic and of the past 2 years. Misha, I'm curious how, as the tutor lead for the Mather School, you've navigated these challenges and persevered with the mission of the program through some really tough headwinds.
So it was difficult to start up Mathers again. I think it was difficult to recruit tutors, especially during this time. And we were all super nervous, about like going and like seeing the students and how they'd react and like their literacy levels at this moment, which are, I think, behind what they would have been pre-pandemic. But working with the students and like working with the other tutors so far, even though we have masks, even though we're like distancing, it's been like nice and fulfilling. So even though the pandemic hit, we're still like trying to go through with it.
That's great. I'm so glad to hear that Mather tutoring program is up and running. And for those of you who don't know, Mather is a school in Dorchester that we've been working with actually since my time in the group. So there's a long-standing relationship there of Brookline High students coming over to be tutors. But as I now understand, that's not the only tutoring program that this group does. And Eleanor, I know that you've been involved with the startup of a couple other tutoring programs. I'm wondering if you could tell us about that.
Yeah, so as Misha mentioned, we have run a variety of tutoring programs, and a lot of those got put on hold or were canceled due to the pandemic. And so when we came back to school this fall, I was really hoping we could get students tutoring again in person as soon as possible. But going back to any of our previous tutoring programs was not really a viable option this fall, just because going into Boston was difficult. Getting people into the schools we had already been working with was near impossible. So I started reaching out to other places I thought could benefit from like the help of Brookline High School student tutors. And it was definitely tricky at first because with all the pandemic restrictions, there was not a lot of like leeway to bring visitors into like school buildings. but we had spent the summer helping students in Steps to Success get summer reading books. And so using the connection we had already formed with Steps to Success, I helped start a tutoring program at the Lincoln School, where we have Brookline High School students who go there Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday, every day after school. We're still doing this now, and help out at the Steps to Success Homework Center, working with students there on whatever work they may have, reading, playing games, and forming connections. So that's been really fun. And I go every Monday, and it's a really great tutoring program. I feel that the impact I'm having on the students I work with is visible. I can feel like I'm forming a connection with them. They don't even know my name the first time I go in there, but after 5, 6, 7, 8 weeks of working with the same people over and over again, you start to form a connection, and knowing that I'm trying to help somebody, even if it's in a really small way, but I'm just another person in their life who knows their name and who smiles when they see them. I really feel like that impact that I'm making is something that's fulfilling for me.
I'm so impressed with all of you. I'm struck by all that you've continued to do, and that this is one of the most important times to focus on literacy, and one of the hardest times for literacy and for students. And we're more grateful than ever that you guys are alive and kicking and making a difference out there in Brookline and beyond.
My name is Rowan Rowdebush, and I'm a senior at Brookline High School. Being on the boys soccer team this year was amazing, and the whole experience of going through the state tournament and then winning it was just like pretty unreal. It's something we'd been talking about since like freshman year. So we built like a sort of bond and chemistry and just like a love of the game and playing with each other. I think we just carried that through to the season, and we just loved the game and didn't want to stop playing. So we just kept winning and just got more and more unreal and amazing. So the Whipple Writing Fellowship it's I think it was 10-week summer program. There's a different theme every time they do it, but the theme for this year was creative nonfiction. I ended up writing about my family's colonial history in Indonesia. My great-great-grandfather managed plantations in Delhi, Sumatra, which was a pretty notoriously exploitative region at the time. And so he was engaged in this system that was violent and exploitative towards indentured workers. So the piece was really about how do I grapple with this history. And I ended up having like a family meeting around the history where I shared the research I had done, and that was a really powerful experience. And so that sort of has forced me to continue to try to be more socially conscious and make sure that I'm not occupying any position that's subjugating people. Beginning of junior year, I published an article about the racial disparities in course levels at the high school. And I did a lot of research for that, and I interviewed a lot of like incredible people. One of the things that came up was this idea that to thoroughly address sort of achievement gaps and racial disparities in schools, you need to involve everyone in schools. So that means students, student activists, that means teachers, that means administrators, and means parents. So the goal of BRAVE was really to, how do we bring these stakeholders together? The structure of it is that we bring these people together, we share, and we try to create a space for collaboration. Because we have all this perspective in a room, there's sort of a more complete picture of what work needs to be done on racism in Brookline schools. Next year, I'm going to try to spend the year doing freelance journalism in some way. I want to write stories that help me understand different introspective questions, but also just like how certain different communities and how the world works, and try to put my experience in Brookline into context as much as I can.
My name is Elliot Lazarova-Wang, and I'm a senior at Brookline High School. I am one of the co-founders of the Brookline High School Medical Club, which I started with 2 other friends. I've been a part of this project called Racial Reconciliation, which is just unpacking white supremacy within our personal lives and just like the entire country. More recently, I've been speaking more about the LGBTQ community and that type of stuff. High school was really, really hard for me in the beginning. I was not doing well academically and mentally. Freshman year, I had just transitioned from female to male, so there was a lot that I was like navigating. I felt like school was extremely hard because I couldn't pay attention to anything except for just like the bad thoughts that were always circulating my mind. But end of sophomore year, getting on hormone replacement therapy and just becoming more okay with myself really allowed me to focus on school. No one is able to really navigate and become comfortable with hatred from other people. So having to face that, it was always hard and it still is. I only have the opportunity to live my life, and I can't really fit everyone's criteria of who they want me to be, who they think I should be. So the way I just overcome that is by reminding myself I can only be me, and that's what I'm doing. And I think I'm doing a pretty good job at it. For my long-term future, my only goal is to be happy. I want a life where I can look back and say, I've been happy and I'm happy. And I think I'm really working towards that now. I want to be able to also inspire people to live that type of life as well. I think it's really hard to not get caught up in all the small things that make life really hard and confusing and challenging. But I think it's really important to always work towards happiness and to know that everybody can be happy.
I'm Manny Fernandez. I'm a senior at Brookline High School. I started originally getting into art through fashion design, but music kind of became a really big thing for me when quarantine started because I had just gotten so into listening to music and I was like, wow, I have a computer. I'm sure I can just start doing this myself, and I did. I started making instrumental hip hop and electronic music, and now I'm in a band, and so making sort of like hardcore kind of metal adjacent music. There are some feelings that really just get taken out, on stage or with an instrument or when I'm like screaming on a microphone about, Chechnya or something. Those are the sorts of things that really like help me to release a lot of very powerful emotion that I think people need to hear because, personally, I also express a lot of emotion by listening to that type of music. This year I taught a class. I decided to make a course about capital and labor, and in this case, focusing on economic systems. So we talked about capitalism, how capitalism developed, mostly using America to look at as sort of our capitalist example. And then we went into communism, we pivoted, and we talked about different forms of communism, but started with like the USSR, went on to China, talked a little bit about Cuba. We had the kids sort of all pick their own countries that were at one point communist or collectivist in some way and actually, talk about how that happened and how that went. And we ended that class by having them create these manifestos that were essentially taking all these ideas and theory and application that we looked at and sort of creating their own ideology around that. People were saying at the end of it, this was like one of their favorite classes they had taken in high school, that they really enjoyed it. So in both creating and teaching the class, I was doing it with the ACE history teacher, Miss Honeywood. It took about, a little over half a year to fully plan out this course from for the inception of the idea to actually starting to teach it. Definitely without the guidance of my history teacher, I wouldn't have been able to do this at all. I mean, I would have been so lost, So, actually teaching kids is like much harder than I thought it would be. Just telling people things over and over again until they got it and just really trying to get through to them and just experimentation, in the end, it was most certainly worth it. I'll be going to Mass Art next year. Hopefully going into illustration, fashion design. I'll continue working on my music projects and things like that. And, hopefully finding new projects to be interested in, new things to be interested in.
My name is Jelisa Burgos. I am a junior at Brookline High School. I take time to read the Bible about an hour each day in the morning.
What have you gotten out of reading the Bible?
I have learned many pieces of, advice to life and um, sort of different ways to think of certain things when I was reading it in a certain context, and I would think about it in a different way. I have many obstacles that I've overcome, and one big one I would say would have to be my disability, where I have to work harder to retain information than most other people. So I have developed my own way of taking notes in a way that is detailed and it helps me retain information better and helps me learn more. I started with watching YouTube videos on other ways people take their notes and many famous ways to take notes, like the Cornell, the two column notes. And I've tried a few of them, try with trial and error. It took a really long time to figure out a way where I can incorporate different methods and mesh them all together in a way that is detailed, that is simple language, as if you're trying to explain it to a younger student, which helps me and other students as well. Some of the responsibilities my brother and I have to take at home is cooking, cleaning, trying to balance our school life and social life, and we need to help our parents as much as we can due to the fact that both of them are disabled. My disability could be a little frustrating at times when I have to work harder. It had led me to burning out. And so, what I have developed to work around that is setting timers for myself on certain times to work and take breaks. To receive such a huge award like this is beyond my imagination. At one point, I've come to my dad, having a conversation with him, talking about how I felt the work that I've been putting into school is too much, and that I feel like it's not leading anywhere. And my dad had told me that eventually that work that I'm putting into is going to lead somewhere big, and that I'm going to make a great impact. In the future, I hope to be a scientist of some sort to help people in any way I can. Hello, my name is Jaleesa Burgos. I am so honored to have received the Brookline Youth Award this year once again, and I am a senior in Brookline High School. In the last year, I have been working on a capstone project on student engagement, and my core goal was to increase more engagement so students enjoy school more. Next year, I am going to go to college for a bachelor's degree in biology, and my hopes and aspirations for the future is to become a medical researcher studying cancer.
My name is Madison Ruth Allen, and I am a junior at Brookline High School. One thing I love to do is absolutely love going to the Brookline Booksmith. I'm a huge reader. I love reading various novels. I really enjoy spending time with my family and friends. I am the president of an organization called Jack and Jill of America Incorporated. I also am the co-founder of the Anti-Racist Brookline Placard Program, which I co-founded with my fellow junior Alice McGarvey Thompson, where we basically created these placards that we hung up around various storefronts in Brookline that have a QR code linking to a huge doc, one being A.J. Healy's Civil Rights Division. And the placards are basically used to increase anti-racist signage around Brookline, and make sure all town residents feel safe and welcome and included. Another thing that I'm doing right now is I'm the student leader for Day of Racial Reform and Solidarity that happens at Brookline High School. And this year we really tried to do a complete reset of the day where we're really working to reimagine our school through an anti-racist lens, and not just imagining it, but really taking the action steps to continue our anti-racist work and really make strides in making our school more equitable and just. The work I do is because I really care. I really care about the people that I'm working for, and I care about the community. I really want to be a role model for young girls of color and show them that we too can be at the forefront of these efforts. I am planning to continue my secondary education at a college. I'd like to be somewhere that's in an urban city, and I would like to study public policy and do a minor in psychology and law. And hopefully, I'd like to be on the road to be a human rights and social justice lawyer. When I look at our world, you see so many people who are famished, people who are hungry, people who don't have a place to live, people who are separated from their families, people who don't have access to sanitary products. You see so many people who just aren't as fortunate as you. And really, when I see that, I'm like, what can we do to help? And that's really the incentive behind the work that I do. What can I do to help? Because everyone can do something to help. It's just about identifying the change you want to create and really enacting that change.
My name is Molly Lewison, and I'm a junior at Brookline High School. Best Buddies is a national program. They bring students who are more integrated into mainstream, into special needs classrooms, and helps foster those friendships and relationships. I was originally drawn to it because my brother, while he was a student at BHS, he was in the special needs department because he had a severe neurological disorder. He died a few years ago, and I knew that when I arrived at BHS, I wouldn't want to lose them, and I wanted to keep in touch with them. And then I heard about the Best Buddies program. I was immediately wanted to join it. And I didn't even expect to love it as much as I do. I always thought it would be more of like a little keepsake of Joe, but I do. I love going there. I have really amazing bonds with a lot of the students there. I see them outside of the classroom. I'll spend time with them in the halls, at lunch. I never leave not smiling. It's such a happy place to be. This year, my friend and I, Ruby Winters, launched a consent initiative called the Consent Initiative. Its purpose is to spread awareness on the importance on consent and to work towards mandating consent integration into school curriculums. We published the website officially a few months ago, and the feedback we received was so positive. If you go online and visit the Consent Initiative, you'll find several pages. There's one with our curriculum integration page. So it's all our lesson plans and ways to contact us. School administrators, teachers, they can contact us with our lesson plans. There's one dedicated to testimonies where survivors of sexual assault or sexual harassment or rape can go and post their testimonies completely anonymously. I really want to go to Northwestern and study at Medill, the School for Journalism. My childhood wasn't always a traditional one. I suffered a lot of losses, both tangible and otherwise. I lost my brother, and I lost a lot of other things. It was hard, and I think the path of grief and the journey of grief in that map, it's never linear, and it's never the same for anyone. But through the years, I've felt the people I've lost all around me all the time. I know now that my story with them doesn't end when they died or when they left or anything. It'll never end. I'll always have them with me, and I'll always carry them with me, and they're the ones pushing me to do better and to try harder and to keep going until I reach my goals.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Karen Chase, and I am with the Brookline Hub. And tonight I am joined by the leaders of the Gender and Sexuality Alliance at Brookline High School. I'm joined by Olivia, Mirren, and Oliver.
Hi, I'm Oliver Slayton. I am a graduating senior at Brookline High School. I use they, them pronouns, and I am one of the co-facilitators of the GSA.
Hi, my name is Mir or Miran Stoyanov. My pronouns are he, they. I'm a junior, and I am also one of the co-facilitators of the GSA.
Hi, I'm Olivia Fox. I use she, her pronouns. I'm a graduating senior, and I'm also a co-facilitator of the GSA.
Wonderful. Who would like to introduce us to the GSA? For all of us that don't know what it is, what's the GSA?
So the GSA is the Gender and Sexuality Alliance, which is essentially a club at the high school, but they can be found all around Brookline, in the middle schools, etc., which is basically centered around queer identities as well as allies. We participate in activism involving queer rights, involving rights for all different student groups, as well as we host social events, we get to know each other, we reach out to middle schools, we invite public speakers to come and speak to the high school. We run the annual event called Day of Dialogue, which is a day of LGBTQ learning and education for the entire Brookline High School. We facilitate all sorts of celebrations and recognition throughout the year for the whole school community as well as little subsets.
Wonderful. Mirren, what made you want to become a facilitator or leader with this organization?
I was part of the GSA last year, and I really loved the environment. I loved the sort of community, and I knew that I wanted to be a part of it. I wanted to be a bigger part of it. I knew that I could do so much, that I really cared about the people that were in it and the people that would be in it, and I really cared about the LGBT community in general. And I wanted to be more active, and I wanted to do more activism with the GSA, and I wanted to make it bigger and more publicized. And I feel like overall, being one of the co-facilitators, I've done a pretty good job of that.
And Olivia, what brought you to the GSA?
Sort of the same thing. I was also part of GSA last year. And I also wanted there to be more representation in GSA. As like the only Black person in GSA now, I thought it was really important. So, yeah.
And Oliver, how did you land in the GSA? What kind of work are you doing there?
Yeah, so I started the GSA back at Pierce Elementary School. And so when I got to the high school, I worked with the GSA a few times to help plan events, but I actually wasn't a part of it because I was involved in a lot of other student activities. But last year, a few members of the GSA approached me and were wondering if I would be interested in helping to be part of this lovely leadership group. And so it was kind of nice to get back into it because I hadn't really been in that leadership position in the GSA since 8th grade, which feels like a long time ago now.
And so in the work that you're doing, what's your biggest pain point? You know, I mean, it's hard to keep a group together. You need people, you need money, you need mission and direction, guidance. What's the sort of biggest pain point or challenge that you have, Mirren?
Honestly, time, I think. I think because club blocks are often so short at BHS, Xbox, we don't have a lot of time to work on things, so they can feel very rushed sometimes. Especially since we only get one block a week and everyone does extracurricular activities. People do sports. I do theater. I know Oliver does dance. Olivia does cheer. So it's really hard to get everyone scheduled together to do things outside of school for GSA, and we only have those short blocks during school.
Olivia, what's the best part of being an activist with the GSA?
Being a facilitator, I think it's great getting involved in the community, and I really enjoy seeing people like talk amongst themselves and really be who they are because they feel safe in that sort of environment. And being an activist, I think it's great because my freshman year before COVID, so I don't remember much, but I didn't really see a lot of activism within the GSA. So I think that's another big thing.
And how about you, Oliver? Your thoughts about being an activist and a facilitator?
Yeah, I would say for a lot of queer folks, it can feel like just living our lives is almost taxing that activism muscle that we have. So putting myself in a position to further extend that can sometimes be daunting and sometimes be incredibly gratifying. I would say one of the most gratifying experiences was I really ran the Queer Youth Walkout this past spring, which was a national walkout about the anti-queer legislation that's been swirling around the country, passing in state after state. And so kind of getting to see, I'd say about 1,000 of my peers walk out of their classes and kind of join to support the queer community, not only in our school, but around the country. People our age who are having decisions made for them by people who don't even know who they are. Getting to see that and feel that and be in that space was incredibly gratifying. It was a reminder of kind of why I do what I do.
And final question for all three of you. What is your hope for the future for the GSA?
I can go that one first. I think that hopefully there won't be a need for a GSA to do as much activism. I think there will always be a want for a community space for LGBT students to come together with like-minded people to share experiences, to make friends, but hopefully there won't need to be as much activism in the future. And I know that's a really optimistic point of view, but I really hope that we can get there one day.
How about you, Olivia? What's your thought for the future?
Yeah, I sort of agree with that. And again, it's hard to tell with everything changing all the time and Brookline being its own bubble. It's sort of hard to say, but sort of the same thing. I hope it just keeps going, especially keeping that. I forget the word for it, but keeping up the activism. We don't really want to lose that momentum.
Beautiful. And Oliver, we'll end on you.
Yeah, I think that if we look around the world right now, especially given current news, it can feel like we're actually moving away from the positive direction that we were moving in even just a few years ago. So I'm a strong believer that GSA produces people that know how to use their voice better than they did before entering the room. So I really hope that in the coming years, no matter what the political climate is, no matter what the modern issues are, GSA continues to be able to create people who feel empowered to use their voice and stand up against any injustice, whether it be one regarding the queer community or their neighbors or their friends or whatever it may be. Because I think no matter what world we live in, no matter what the modern issue is, that will always be an important skill to have, not only for the betterment of those people who get to be in the GSA, but the people who they interact with for the rest of their lives.
Thank you all so much for talking about the GSA tonight. I know it was nice to shine a light. And like this group has said, please come on down, just attend the meeting, take the time, learn, and get motivated and get active. Thanks again. And now back to the interviews.
My name is Julia Liberatore, and I'm a senior at BHS. The food pantry, that takes up most of the time I have for extracurriculars. Basically, I started in December 2020. I saw that there were so many people there and everyone was kind of overwhelmed and the resources were stretched really thin. So, I wanted to help out. And so it was like a once a week thing for a long time. And then, I used to do soccer practice, teaching younger kids to play soccer. And then that kind of fizzled out, and so my week cleared up and I was like, oh, so now I can help much more because they were in such great need. So I started doing it 3 times a week, and I liked the fact at the beginning that it helped me get out of the house. It made me feel like I had a purpose, that I wasn't just doing homework, studying for tests. I was contributing to the community in some way. I felt like I had found my thing a little bit. That actually made me consider wanting to work for nonprofits when I was older. I liked when the new volunteers came in and I would teach them the tricks and how the system worked and stuff like that. I have a little bit of a tendency, whether it's good or bad, to like take charge if there's a situation that's kind of chaotic. When I saw that like a situation was starting to get stressful, I would try to be the person who wasn't stressed. And that's actually something that, the food pantry has taught me, to not get stressed, because I actually used to be a very stressed person. Ariel at the food pantry, what she does is like so amazing, like just dedicating her life to like helping people in such a direct way. Every thought she has when she's there is how to make things go smoother, how to accommodate the needs of the clients best, and caring so much, because sometimes like it's like a little bit in customer service when you start to get a little bit robotic, a little bit like, hi, how can I help you, stuff like that. But she cared so deeply. Working there was a really nice feeling. Every time I had a bad day, I would go there and I would feel better after.
Hi, I'm Isis Contreras. I am a junior at BHS. I'm from Costa Rica. I moved here 2016, middle of 7th grade, middle of winter. Went to Baker. It was quite an experience. In school, I run the Food Justice Club with my friend Julia. I also am part of judiciary. I find that it's really important for kids to use their voice. Outside of school, I am part of things like the Boston Children's Chorus and organizations like Farm Sanctuary and Sunrise Brookline. And a lot of these organizations work to achieve equity among different aspects in our society. I am sick of seeing people not having the same opportunities. I see injustice everywhere, and the fact that we just let it go and the fact that so many people are complacent just makes me so upset. It's not okay that there's so many things in our society and we just let it happen and we just turn a blind eye and we just keep putting band-aids on it. I just see the news, like even just turning on CNN, and it's just like, man, like there's so much that needs to be done in so little time. And it's sometimes really overwhelming because I want to be doing all these things, but there's only so much time. I want to see change, and I want to see people coming together and opening their eyes and realizing that the world doesn't revolve around them. It's about all of us, and you can't just turn a blind eye because it doesn't affect you. You have to work on it for it to be fixed. And so I want to see people coming together and working. It's really frustrating how even in Brookline so many kids just are so complacent. And it's really frustrating because a lot of the times they don't have bad intentions. They just don't know any better. That's why taking classes like social justice and racial awareness is so important. So important, for especially for kids that have lived their entire life in Brookline. So they get to have that experience of being empathetic and putting themselves in other people's shoes. I really want to go to the University of Geneva. Someday I'll become some sort of diplomat or a foreign officer to try and do something.
Hello, I'm Isis Contreras Perez, and I'm a senior. This year, I've been lucky to co-lead the Food Justice Club again, as well as joining Sarah as a co-leader. It's been great because I've gotten to do networking that I hadn't before. As well as this December, I was lucky to participate in Wild, the musical Becoming with Idina Menzel. That happened at Harvard. It was really awesome. It tackled climate change in a way that it hadn't been done before, and that was really cool. This year, I've also been doing Farm Sanctuary in California. It's kind of an internship of like a place where they talk about animal legislation, and that's been cool. I got involved with it through my dad. I've been involved with racial reconciliation at Brigham and Women's. It's this internship, this project where kids get to heal trauma related to race. And so it's like 5 students of color and 5 white kids. And it's like this program where we really get deep into how race goes into the health system. And I'm going to Barnard College, and I'm so excited. I love New York City. I love Manhattan. And the environment of just women is going to be so great. So that I'm really excited for that. I'm really, really excited for that.
My name is Donnell O'Neill Jr., and I'm a junior at Brookline High. Some of my favorite things to do and what makes me happy are playing baseball and football. When I was younger, I always loved baseball, and I thought I was like gonna be the best baseball player ever. And like, I'm still pretty good at baseball, but I'm not that. And when I got to 6th grade, my teacher, Miss London, uh, so I was doing really, really bad in 6th grade, and she sat down in front of me and cried in front of me and like made me realize like maybe I need a backup plan because the odds are I'm probably not gonna be the best baseball player of all time. The people that inspire me are like Miss London, Miss Jadoff, and Miss Bear because they made me realize like the type of person that I can be and the type of like the potential that I have. My great grandmother was kind of like my mother. She was always there. When my grandma died in freshman year, I just stopped trying. And Miss Bear was just constantly in my ear, trying to get me to try and push and push. And I realized like maybe I don't have to play baseball at the professional level, but I could be a trainer for players at the professional level. And that kind of turned around like that. I feel like there are a lot of obstacles that I've had to overcome. It's like kind of hard for me to keep up if I didn't have someone like Miss Bear by my side to like make sure I'm on top of it and keep trying to get the vocab into my head. There are a lot of students like me that are a minority and don't have a lot of money that their parents can't afford for them to have $100 tutoring. So they're falling behind, and it's not because they're not smart enough to keep up with the other kids in their class. It's just the other kids in their class, they have parents who can afford to buy them tutoring and get them to where they need to be. And so kids like me can't really compete with that, so we're kind of behind. I think what can change that is Brookline putting more money into tutoring for minorities. I think they need to get tutoring for minorities who ask for it because a lot of people are like, they're smart enough to do the work, they just don't have the resources that they need. I see my future as me going to college and being the first person in my family to go to college and finishing college. And then I see myself going into like the sports medicine field. I'm not too sure about what exactly yet. Maybe like something close to a doctor, but not really a doctor, or like an athletic trainer, so that I'm still around sports and still involved with that.
My name is Azavia Barsky-Elnor. I'm a junior at Brookline High School. My favorite things to do are probably baking. I started cooking and baking when I was like 4, and it's something that I've always loved to do. And I really enjoy spending time with my family. I think that being biracial has been a very big gift because it's taught me to understand the perspective of white people in a way that I otherwise wouldn't have. It's taught me that I can really love family members who do not understand why talking about racism is important. I think that talking about race is really uncomfortable. And it's certainly not comfortable for me. I mean, I don't think that anyone is born being like, you know what, I would really love to talk about institutional racism. I was like 8 the first time that I was meeting with administrators about racism at my middle school. I got comfortable being in a position where I was very young and I was very inexperienced, but I was the only one who was Black, and I was the only one with that experience. I think probably the biggest thing that I think doesn't get enough acknowledgement is how powerful children are. So I've been working for a statewide nonprofit called Project 351 for 4 years now. And I started as an ambassador, so I got picked to represent Brookline. And I also volunteer at the Young Scholars Program and a youth environmental club. And these are kids who are so interested in being engaged. And I think probably one of the most frustrating things to hear as a kid is like, you can talk about this when you're older, or you're not big enough to talk about this, or this is an adult conversation. But the truth is that we're really stifling the potential of children who are so open to the possibility of change and who are so impressionable and who want to learn. We sort of have this false notion that that race is like an older and like more adult conversation. But the truth is that if you're Black in Brookline, you're experiencing racism when you're really young. And Brookline has a responsibility to give young people the resources to be able to start those conversations preemptively before they've experienced racism and before it's poorly handled when they're older. I think it's so important that we talk about numbers is because it really solidifies this concept. So I'll give you an example. So for our AP classes at Brookline High School, 2% of our AP course composition is Black. 40% of all of our IEPs are Black. So the question is, where are we going wrong? And I think the answer is that we aren't going wrong. It's just that we have an institution that wasn't built to support Black people. And so we are quite literally being shown that excellence is not the track that Black people are meant to go on when they come to school in Brookline. And that is not the standard that we should be setting or instilling in children of color. We talk about slipping through the cracks, but the truth is that was the path that Brookline has designed for them. And if you get somewhere else, and if you get into the honors track or the advanced track, you are an anomaly, and that is a problem. And that's something that needs to be fixed. I certainly don't think that it should be up to the discretion of a few people who are willing to go the extra mile. I think that it needs to be something that's mandated on a much larger scale. I'm not totally sure what I'm going to do next year, but as of right now, I think that I'm going to do a postgraduate year at Phillips Exeter Academy, and then I'll go to college the year after that.
My name's Evan Gattell. I'm a senior at Brookline High School, and I use he, him pronouns. So at the start of the year, I was on the soccer team. I was one of our 4 captains, and we had quite a season. It was really, really exciting from the beginning. We had been building a group of my class from our sophomore year. A lot of us had been on the varsity team as sophomores, which is pretty unusual. And we had stayed together on the same team for 3 years, and the previous year, due to COVID, there was no state tournament, and we really felt like we missed the opportunity to have a good playoff run that year. So we really wanted to make good of our senior year and go as far as we could. And we were incredibly successful, and we won the state title in the end. And I think Newton really thought they were going to win it in regular time, so they weren't really prepared to play much longer. I mean, they had been really like dominating us for most of the game. They scored their goal, and it was getting down to the end of the game, and we were down 1-0, and it was like, oh, we have no chance. Like, there's only 5 minutes left. We really need like a moment of brilliance. And I mean, Toby just had a great shot, and he tied it up. And from there, we had momentum and belief. And then in the second period, we had Julian Gravero, a junior, play a long ball over the top to Isaac, and just like the game before, he scored the winning goal, which was insane. We all rushed over to him in the corner and then came to the fans, and it was just unbelievable. Like a bunch of the seniors and I just looked at each other being like, we did what we had promised to do. Like we actually did it. Like, it was pure disbelief and pure joy. We all got varsity jackets that say state champions on it. And I'm just so excited to be able to like remember this moment for the rest of my life. I got involved with SHARP at the end of last year. SHARP is the Sexual Harassment, Assault Response, and Prevention Team. We're a student-run organization, and we aim at preventing sexual assault and creating a culture, like a culture that is moving away from rape culture. It's a lot about like creating a actual space for people to have support, but also creating a whole school that is more supportive of people who have experienced sexual assault and things like that. a big thing I've been focusing on is trying to like reframe the work we do as being like just for women as being for everyone. This is actually connected to another extracurricular that I do, which is called Brookline Young Men's Group, which is basically a space for men to work together and talk about like all of the various struggles we were having around like toxic masculinity, around all the misogyny that we had like learned just from like being in a society where like misogyny is normalized. Talking about toxic masculinity and misogyny and talking about all these like really personal issues for me really has changed my life and helped me develop relationships that will last beyond high school, and that are really authentic and deep. So I think it's really interesting because I started this work to help others, but now I do this work to help myself, among also with helping others. Next year I'm going to be attending Tufts, which I'm really excited about because I'll still be in the area, and I'm just like super honored to have the opportunity to go there and continue this work in some capacity there.